What does it do, YouTube? Scotty back at you with another episode of Scotty Says, and I hope you have been following along as I've chronicled the Los Angeles Rams. And really, I started last season covering the failing marriage between one Sean the Boy Wonder McVay and his flawed QB, Jared the Golfer Goff. And we watched throughout the season as McVay fell out of love with his QB. We watched him as his eyes wandered and he began an affair with the Wolford. We watched as the marriage finally crumbled and the golfer was exiled from the palace in Inglewood and sent to the wasteland of Detroit in exchange for McVay's new object of affection, one Matt Stafford. Now, I hope you go back and watch some of these previous videos, because even last year, before this season started, I told you that the similarities between Goff and Stafford were a lot closer than people really realized. Somewhere, Jared the Golfer Goff is thinking, so that's what you wanted, huh? And see, that's the thing about one-upping, better dealing, upgrading. You never know what that next better deal might have wrong under the hood. Okay? You don't know what the history may be when you better deal someone, when you jump from 1 yard to the other because the grass looks greener. You don't know. Maybe you just monkey branched right into a haunted garden. So, this season, we have chronicled the arrival of Matt from Detroit. As you know, I have dubbed him the Pigskin Poltergeist because I believe Matt Stafford is haunted. The man is haunted by a dozen years of losing in Detroit. He's haunted by his own talent. So I think there are times when Matt Stafford is his own worst enemy, and therefore I see him as a tragically flawed quarterback. He can make wonderful throws at times and then follow those up with horrific interceptions and missed throws. And so you have a Jekyll and Hyde with Matt Stafford. And it's been on display all season. Go back and check my earlier videos on the Rams. I've documented it. I've chronicled it all season long. And I said weeks ago when the Rams were 7-1, I said Matt from Detroit may very well be the undoing of the Rams' goals and aspirations. But really, it's deeper than Matt from Detroit. And we'll get into that. So let's set the stage. The Rams, 7-1, then go on a 3-game losing streak and drop to 7-4. And suddenly all the questions about Matt from Detroit start bubbling to the surface. The awful, horrific, repulsive interceptions that he has a penchant for throwing. The awful decisions. Relying on his own talent when his savvy experience in the league should tell him, don't make that throw, but he does it anyway. So, let's set the stage. The Rams, from a gaudy 7-1, drop 3, go to 7-4. But then they start to rebound. Granted, they're playing Jacksonville, a bottom-tier opponent. Granted, they're playing Arizona, who seems to be unraveling as they tend to do under Cliff Kingsbury each year. Granted, they're playing Seattle, who they own and who has a quarterback with a thumb problem, a hand issue, and other things. You've got a fossil-type coach there in Seattle. So the 3 in a row that the Rams won, though needed, didn't illuminate the Rams' progress in terms of cleaning up their deficiencies. And so we come into yesterday's game. LA Rams at Minnesota Vikings. Now, the Vikes are at 500, and they need a win if they want to keep their slim playoff hopes alive. The Rams, now at 10-4, have a chance with a win today to clinch a playoff spot, the 4th in 5 years under McVay, ahead of those same Cardinals who streaked out to a 7-0 record and now have fallen back to earth with a thud. And so both teams needed this game. And the Rams have been facing their share of adversity. Thanks, COVID. After playing a short week from a Tuesday night win against Seattle, now it's a morning game in Minnesota on Sunday after just 4 days off. Also, there are more COVID casualties, particularly on the offensive line. Whitworth, the 40-year-old left tackle, out, COVID protocols. Havenstein was out already, COVID protocols. Noteboom, out, COVID protocols. And so you've got a patchwork offensive line. Now, I'm thinking before the game even kicks off, McGenius, there can be no better excuse for you to run the ball today than to have a patchwork offensive line. With Havenstein out, Whitworth out, and Noteboom out, you really need to help the offensive line. And for me, the real hidden benefit to that is you help keep the Poltergeist at bay by running the ball. So I'm thinking, McGenius, maybe you've learned now. Run the ball. Now, right off the bat, Ernest Young. I like this rookie, although he was later injured. He forces a 3-and-out with a fantastic solo tackle on 3rd down on the opening possession of the ball game. And then, thank you very much, boy genius, but Brandon Powell is back to return the punt. And I hope you've been watching. As I say, go back, check the videos. I've been calling for this for weeks now. Brandon Powell should handle the kick return duties, the kickoffs and the punt returns. So I'm thinking, okay. And then on first down of the Rams' first possession, a run to Sony Michel. And then on second down of the Rams' first possession, another run to Sony Michel. And I'm thinking, yes, McGenius must have subscribed to my channel. He's listening. But then, Matt from Detroit shows right up. Now remember, this is the Rams' opening drive of the game. Matt from the D shows right up and chucks one right at a guy in purple. And fortunately, the guy, it was almost like he wasn't ready for it. The Viking was like, really, are you throwing me this? Ah, and he dropped it. And I'm like, see, that's why we need to keep running. You ran on first down, got nice yards. You ran on second down, got nice yards. Keep it going. No, you want to throw on your third play of the drive and damn near get it picked off. And I'm thinking, now this is his first throw of the game. He tried to chuck it away. And I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be a bumpy ass ride today. If somebody doesn't knock the snot out of him early. Because, see, that is what I've tended to notice calms him down. Gets that malevolent spirit up out of there. The exorcism for the Pigskin Poltergeist is having Matthew Stafford get the snot knocked out of him. So I'm thinking, you got a patchwork offensive line. McVay wants to keep dropping him back. Somebody knock the snot out of this guy and get the poltergeist removed. But Stafford settles down. Seems to sort of get a hold of Mr. Hyde, his alter ego. He seems to settle himself down. And the Rams start moving the chains, but they're out of balance now. Just that quick. It's heavy throw, light run. For Crazy Legs 2, Cup is on the scene, making nice plays. He's making the catches. He doesn't drop passes. But then on top of that, he's blocking in the run game. And so the Rams put together a nice drive. 7-0. When Matt from Detroit throws those no-look passes that he likes to do, makes me very nervous. Because Matt from Detroit throws interceptions when he's looking. So when he's trying no-looks, as Chick Hearn would say, the mustard is off the hot dog. Dude, just complete the passes that are there. All that extra flair and fancy and look at me and I can no look and I'm a sidearmer and I've got all this. I'd much rather have a competent quarterback who makes the correct reads and makes the consistent throws. That's far more valuable in my mind than a guy who can run around and throw no-look passes and throw sidearm and get picked off repeatedly. But it's 7-0 Rams. Minnesota then responds with a long drive of their own. But the D is playing well these days. With the caveat being, I'm afraid they're getting overexposed by the offense being either unable to sustain drives or turning the ball over. After a long Minnesota drive to the red zone, Cousins throws a pass that is tipped. Great defense, Darius Williams, and then picked in the end zone. This defense is playing so well, if the offense helps them some complimentary football, they could pitch a shutout today. Complimentary football. The Rams offense takes over after the turnover from their own 10-yard line. Now the Rams are up 7-0. You got the ball. You know the Pigskin Poltergeist has already been making appearances in the building today. And so there would be no better time than to establish your run game right now. But no. McWonder opts to throw on 3 consecutive downs. And this is what I'm worried about in the playoffs. The apparent inability of Sean Boy Wonder McVay to stick and commit to run game, ground game principles. It's going to kill you because you have a haunted quarterback. And if you insist, if you are determined to have Matt from Detroit throw from empty backfield out of the shotgun time after time after time, you're going to lose. I'm telling you. Mark it down. Okay? Scotty says, you are going to lose. You cannot win in the playoffs that way. And right on cue, Matty from the D tries to chuck another one right to a Viking who is unable to hold on to it. Minnesota at that point still was not ready to accept any haunted gifts from the Pigskin Poltergeist. So they dropped another potential interception. I see it, and I'm a guy on the couch. How can Sean Boy Wonder McVay not see it? You have to help Matty from the D. You have to commit to the ground game. You have to run first to set up all the play action, passing game antics that you really want to run. If you don't do it in that sequence, if you don't set up the ground game first, if you don't establish Sony Michel first, if you come out the gate with Matty from the D, throwing it, chucking it to the wrong people, you're going to lose. You'll be one and done in the playoffs. Maybe you can get away with it against the Vikings, but not in the tournament. So fortunately for the Rams, the worst of it is a 3 and out, and they're able to kick the ball away without ever gaining a yard. And they're able to kick the ball away. And I noticed the camera seemed to catch McVay in Matty from the D's ear going to commercial break. But I'm like, I don't know why you want to get on Matty from the D, Sean. This is on you. You are the play caller who refuses to accept some very basic principles. You've got a haunted quarterback. You've got a patchwork offensive line. You've got a strong running back. A couple. We've seen up close. Look what Shanahan, your papa, did to you. He ran the ball 44 times down your throat. Whooped you good. Physically beating you in the interior with the run game. Look at the GOAT coach, Belichick. He let his rookie quarterback throw a grand total of 3 passes in a game, and he won. Against Buffalo. Not against Jacksonville or some lower tier team. He won against Buffalo. 3 passes. 3 passes attempted. 2 completions. 66%. Great completion percentage. And yet, Sean McVay, the boy wonder, the genius, cannot seem to grasp this concept. It's because he wants to throw at his core, in his heart. He wants. He thought, hey, now I've got Matthew Stafford, see? Now, why, I can just empty the backfield and put him in the gun and throw it all across the yard. You will lose, sir, if you do that. Take it from Scotty now. I'm trying to save us all some grief. Boy wonder. Now at this point, Sony Michel is averaging about 6 yards per carry. 6. Why won't you let success be your guide and hand that man the rock and let him tote it? Run him! Fortunately, the defense once again holds. How long can they hold up? Under these kinds of circumstances, you're not running the ball. You're not eating clock. You've got this time of possession discrepancy that keeps rearing its ugly head. Why? Because you're not chewing clock. Every time Matty from the D throws an incomplete pass, the clock stops. It's the opposite of ball control offense. It's ball fumbling offense. It's ball squandering offense. So the Rams get the ball back yet again. We're still 7-zip. And first down, a big run from Sony Michel. A big run on first down for a first down. This is what I'm saying. Let's punish them a little bit. But the next play, a throw to Cooper Kupp. Then McVay comes back with the run to Sony Michel. So, okay, he's trying to find some balance, I'm thinking. And now Sony Michel has 40 yards on 7 carries. So at this point, I'm imploring McGenius from my couch, stay with Sony. Ride him, stay with him. Right then and there, another lineman goes down. This time, it's their center, Allen. I'm like, your line is a complete patchwork quilt. Run the ball, man, for the love of all that is holy. And then there it is, another 9-yard run by Sony Michel. And then Michel again. And again. Michel drove the pile for 16 big yards. The man is running hard with ferocity. Okay? You got to reward that. Give him the ball. Let him do his work. But Sony Michel needs a breather too, especially after a big run like that on third down. So he goes out, and Darrell Henderson comes in for this sequence. And on the next 3 downs, McGenius does not run once. Darrell Henderson never touches the ball. He goes to 3 straight pass calls. And the drive stalls. The Rams have to settle for 3, whereas I know had they continued running the ball there, they're going to cash in for 7. All right, 10-0 Rams. As the clock ticks down the minutes of the first half, the Rams defense gives the ball back to the LA offense yet again. Still no score, still pitching a shutout. And the boy wonders record now when the Rams are leading at halftime. A gaudy 44-0, 4-4-0. And so you're thinking, all right, let's maintain what we got now. A little more run, eat up a little more clock, take the ball out of the Poltergeist hands, let the D keep doing their thing, and we should be good. And then the threat is finally realized. The Pigskin Poltergeist strikes and chucks a pigskin at a guy in a purple uniform, the wrong color. And this time they accept the haunted gift. And it was eerily similar to the Tennessee Titans interception. You remember that nasty, ugly interception where Matty from the D threw one with reckless abandon right around his own goal line, right into the chest of an opposing player. It was deja vu all over again. And this is what I mean when I say it's on McVay. You've got the ball around your goal line, and you're up 10-0 before the half. Run the ball. Any common sense approach there is to run the ball. And then you factor in, you've got a haunted quarterback. You've got a rogue poltergeist roaming around alongside you. And you know it. And yet you do it anyway. And this is where I start to say McVay is beginning to resemble a bird brain. And what do I mean by bird brain? A bird brain. My definition of a bird brain is someone who does the same thing repeatedly, knowing the outcome will not be to their advantage. And yet they do it anyway. Maybe hoping this time it will be different when there's no evidence or data to suggest it will. Maybe oblivious to the pattern that is so clear and evident to everyone else for whatever reason. The boy genius seems trapped into this cycle, this myopia of I want to drop back the poltergeist into an empty backfield shotgun formation and have him chuck it all around. It's a recipe for disaster. And as I mentioned, the Rams defense is being overexposed. They can't keep being run out there time after time after time on the wrong side of the field from their own 11-yard line, from their 15, from their 20, running out there trying to keep a team out of the end zone. You've only got so many of those kinds of stops, bend but don't breaks in you as a defense. Any defense, the best defense. That's complementary football. If you've got the defense percolating, the offense has to help. Even if you're not doing a lot, don't turn the ball over. Eat up some clock. Don't keep running your defense back out in harm's way. Don't let that time of possession discrepancy be a killer for you. McGenius, why don't you see it? The Rams defense is up to the challenge once again, and they hold them to 3. Now, coming out of halftime, the sideline reporter says that McGenius told her that he really wanted to get the run game going. And I said, well, I'll be damned. Why are you telling her? You have the power. Run the ball. All you got to do is hand Sony Michel the ball. He had 80 yards in the first half. And you didn't run him enough. So instead of telling the sideline reporter, I really want to try and get the run game going, just have that haunted quarterback of yours turn around and hand the man the ball. That's all you got to do. Sheesh. So, first Rams possession out of halftime. Rams receive the ball, and on first down, we get a 4-yard run. Sony Michel, fantastic. Let's control the ball. Second down, drop back, roll out, the Poltergeist. Did it again. He throws a deep bomb, home run ball into double coverage, and he underthrew it to boot. Interception. Second play out of halftime. Turnover. Minnesota ball. And this, again, is what I'm talking about. This guy has been trying all game long to throw the ball to the guys in purple. And the head coach, who's an astute guy, who has been nicknamed the Boy Wonder, the genius, has to be able to see that the quarterback is struggling with himself, with his alter ego. Mr. Hide the ball from him, please. So let me say this right here and now, and I want to say it clear and without equivocation. There is no way the Rams can overcome Matt from Detroit in the playoffs if McVay doesn't handcuff him. McVay, the Boy Wonder, has to put restraints, has to put the horse collar on Stafford, or else the Rams are doomed. The man throws interceptions like you or I take a sip of water. It's just natural to him. Very comfortable. Easy for him. And the more opportunities you give him to chuck the pigskin around the yard, the more opportunities there are for the Poltergeist to strike. And he will. You know what they say about the Poltergeist. Don't invite him in, because if you invite him in, he will come. And by not running the ball, Sean McVay, you invite the Poltergeist into the palace, the haunted palace known as SoFi. The Rams will be one and done in the playoffs if the Boy Wonder and Matt from Detroit don't fix this madness. And yet again, the Rams' defense holds, forcing Minnesota to punt. And here's another thing. Why, Sean McWonder, do you keep sending Crazy Legs Cup back to return punts? Stop it. You've got Brandon Powell. First of all, Cooper Kupp's not going to break off a punt return for a touchdown. But beyond that, you're going to get him hurt back there. Let him do his duties as a wideout. Let him block in the run game and break records as a receiver. Keep him off special teams, McWonder. You've got a guy now. Back to the action. So, the Rams' first possession after the punt. Certainly now, McGenius understands what he has to do. He's learned his lesson. He's ready to make adjustments, right? Wrong. Wrong. He comes out throwing again. Can anybody say bird brain? Why won't he learn? When will he learn? Only after he's eliminated and he's sitting in Cabo in the offseason will he go, oh, I wonder if I should have run more. Or will he ever learn? And right on cue, just as I was jotting that note down, when is McGenius going to learn? Stafford drops back to pass. The pass is tipped. Picked again. The third one. And you know what? Honestly, tip passes, picks off tip passes, that happens. The first two, 100% I put on Stafford and McVay. The last one I put on McVay. because he shouldn't have been thrown there to begin with. And maybe that's what it's going to take for the boy wonder to finally get it through his skull. Maybe he's going to have to be eliminated from the playoffs and face all of that scrutiny and all of the criticism that will surely come. Because remember, this is the all-in year, right? This is the play the home Super Bowl game, right? You get one and done eliminated with the Poltergeist, chucking the ball every which way, you are going to face a storm of criticism unlike anything you've ever seen. Now, I'm sure McVay's job is secure, but it's going to be ugly. I'm trying to help you before this happens. You got to stop it. Sean, is it okay if I call you Sean? Mr. McWonder? You got to stop it. And this time, of course, the defense can't hold. This time, Minnesota does cash it in. And now it's 13-10. And it shouldn't have to be this close. The game was in hand. You're trying to give it away, Mr. McWonder. But now, after the third interception, it looks like the bird brain, the boy wonder, is finally, reluctantly, moving back towards running the ball. Now, the Rams are moving the ball, and after a couple of consecutive runs, on a 3rd and short, McVay, instead of running, elects to throw the ball, and the Poltergeist throws a wounded duck to an open OBJ. And the drive stalls again. The Rams defense is up to the challenge and holds Minnesota to a 3-and-out and forces them to punt yet again. And this time, thankfully, back returning the punt, why, it's Brandon Powell. And what does he do but break off a big-ass touchdown, a punt return touchdown. And it was a thing of beauty. And it swung the momentum. And it was something that the Rams, on every level, sorely needed. It was a jolt of energy. It was a shot in the arm. Congratulations to Brandon Powell on a 61-yard punt return for a touchdown. And by the way, that was the Rams' first punt return for a touchdown in the Sean McVay era. In fact, it was the Rams' first punt return for a touchdown since 2015, back when they were the St. Louis Rams and Tavon Austin returned one for a tub. And so you see how long it's been. And I've seen some of the guys McGenius has thrown back there to return punts. And no slight to Cooper Kupp. I think he's obviously a fantastic football player, but his forte is not kick returns, okay? So, for the love of all that is holy, Mr. McGenius, leave Brandon Powell to the kick duties. Let him return kickoffs and punt returns. It should not be a question. It should be a given. Moving forward, unless there's some type of injury, let the man handle it. Okay? Okay. I hope he's hearing me. And ultimately, the Rams go on to hold on to a 30-23 victory in Minnesota. And this victory is cause for celebration because it clinches the Rams a playoff berth. They will be in the tournament this year. But at this point, Sony Michel is your man. You roll with him that way. Final numbers. Stafford, 21-37 for 197, a touchdown, and three ungodly picks. Cooper Kupp, crazy legs too. 10 receptions, 109 yards. And Sony Michel, 27 carries, 131 yards, and a touchdown. If the playoffs started today, the Rams are sitting as the 3 seed, which means they would host the 49ers in that opening wildcard game. And of all the teams in the tournament, the Niners would be the one team I would want to see least if I'm the Rams. Now, there's many scenarios over these next 2 weeks, depending on what Arizona does, depending on how the Rams play it out, what the Niners do, etc., etc., etc. The Rams could get as high as the 2 seed, in which case they would host, most likely, Philadelphia if things stay as they are. Or they could drop down to the 4 seed, which means they would host Arizona. And worst case scenario is they fumble the bag and end up appearing in the tournament as a wild card team, and Arizona comes from behind to snatch the division crown. So there's all these scenarios with the remaining 2 games. And I kid Sean McVay about being the boy wonder and being McGenius, and I kid him, but I trust him. And even though I do kid him, as I have said many times, in McVay I trust. But I have to share this small bit of unrequested advice. Sean, Mr. McWonder, unless you manage to secure a championship ring with these Rams, and I'm not saying it has to be this year, but unless you pull down a championship here shortly, all of these other things are going to ring hollow. The greatest show on turf, as great as they were, they only got 1 ring. They should have had more, but they didn't. And then it's over. And so, I don't know, of course, what kind of shelf life McVay will have and how long he can sort of ride above the rest of the NFL coaches. But if you don't get a championship, all the rest of this isn't going to mean much. You got to cash it in with a ring, my friend. And as I have said, it's all on McVay. It's not on Matty from the D, because we know who he is. He is who we thought he was. And if you want to crown him, go ahead and crown him. But in all seriousness, Stafford is who he is. If you don't help him, if you don't bolster him with a strong run game, if you don't call plays that lead to a balanced time of possession, he'll hurt you. I think McWonder has a fantasy in his mind about Matt Stafford. But we're in the real world. And in this real world, that fantasy is going to turn into a ruined nightmare unless you are physical and unless you run the ball, and that will set up what you really want to do, chucking the ball around the yard. Will Sean McVay give the Poltergeist, Matty from the D, the help he needs, that he desperately needs, before it's too late? Now, we will continue to monitor the goings-on at the Haunted Palace. In the meantime, throw me one of these. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. And until next time, Scotty says, have a fantastic and happy and prosperous holiday season and a wonderful new year. Until next time, my friends, one love. Until next time, my folks.